It's so lovely to see you, and today's video is going to be taking into effect a lot of shoulders and upper body, and we're also going to be using some postures and some positions that you can go into when you're in a sitting down state. So a lot of the time when we're sitting, and I'm just going to go through this right from the beginning because I think it is so important. A lot of the time when we're sitting and the way that our body structure is a lot of the time we're actually sitting on our spine and our vertebrae instead of sitting on the sit bones, which is if you visualize the human body and the glute muscles, the sit bones would actually be slightly underneath of the glute muscles. So to begin with, I'm just going to show you kind of how when you are sitting, and again, please practice this a lot this week. It'll be very important to get in the habit of what it feels like to have your sit bones connected to the surface that you're sitting on and what it feels like to not have those sit bones connected. So just coming from the side angle here, when you do sit down, a lot of the time we sit down and we don't think too much of it, and especially if we're in a space or in a state of communication, or we're on the computer, or we're doing work that's fairly repetitive throughout the day, our posture just ends up becoming more and more, and a lot of us would understand this because we catch ourselves doing it, but a lot more hunched and a lot more curved, especially in that lower lumbar, which puts, of course, so much pressure in and around the vertebrae of that lower back. So when you're sitting, right now I'm not sitting on my sit bones, and I can feel it because my posture, even my digestive system, so my large intestines, everything's getting compressed. Everything's getting kind of shoved and kind of pushed into where it doesn't naturally flow. It doesn't naturally have support. So a big part of this, and I can go into this for so long, but for today's purposes, we're just going to kind of tune into it because it's very valuable. Today, I want to just really get into the shoulders, the lower back, and the hip area. So when you're in a sitting position, any type of sitting position, this happens to be a flat seat, but even and especially so when you sit on something that has a little bit of cushion, you want to just ever so slightly lean forward and grab hold of the fleshy part of the glutes, so literally your bum muscles. As you pull those muscles, or as you pull those glutes out and away, you'll kind of notice that your hips or your tailbone kind of almost lift and kind of expand themselves up towards the ceiling or up towards the sky. So as you do that, it just helps to reposition your pelvis. And again, you'll notice that I'm not crisscrossing my feet. I'm trying to have my feet nice and stable. As soon as you do cross your feet, again, it shifts everything in the hips. And it's not a bad thing. It's most of the population does these habits, but as soon as your hips are shifted, now you can almost see my whole torso has to now shift back over this way. So it's shifting this way, my upper body has to shift this way, and then my neck and my shoulders almost have to shift this way. So you can really start to see, and I'm one of the ones that I work on mostly for myself even. It's so common to see where our bodies are constantly making those little adjustments, and they can really have a big effect to where our aches and pains are coming from on the day-to-day basis. So when you're doing this exercise as best as you can, this video is specifically for people that do find themselves sitting a lot of the time or do find themselves in this position, and it can make just such a world of difference if you can just have a little note somewhere that reminds you, sit bones, remind. Your body will actually become accustomed to it. At first it'll feel very forced, and because you are actually engaging your muscles, you're going to grab hold and you're going to just allow your body, get a cushion behind your lower back if you need that. Do what you need to do. Make sure your feet are nice and solid. And again, if you have pedals, or if you're doing anything, working with the arms, pedals, or even working in the desk, really make sure you have any type of tools or any type of support that you need within. Again, if you're there in a working day, it's really worth it to really set up your station. So if your feet aren't touching, or if you do use a lot of pedals back and forth, that again is just going to shift those hips forward. Make sure that you kind of almost have a landing pad underneath your feet that reminds you to bring your feet back down to center whenever you can. Another piece too is if you need support here, or if you do need like a slightly different, if you're already noticing that you have a lot of lower back issues, it can be something to look into to find some type of seat or support that you can literally allow your body to adjust into it, so it's almost like a foamy, and that can sometimes help just to soften some of the pressure that has already been put on your spine, and just help you again to really alleviate and begin to build that strength, not only within the vertebrae but also within our core muscles. And remembering that our core muscles are our tummy, our side body, our back, our muscles all the way up to our back, that goes all the way up to our neck and our shoulders. So that is actually really, when it comes down to it, that's our whole core area. If you're in this position and again your body just ends up taking on a really curvature, very protective space, it stops breathing, it stops digestion, it stops a lot of work that is needed to happen on a daily basis to allow your body to function at just a bare minimum. So again, something to be mindful of is drawing the shoulders back, allowing, again, we'll go over this more and more, but allowing those shoulder blades to slightly come towards the spine, and then just ever so slightly drop down and away from the ears. And even I can feel in my shoulders, they're tight because I can feel that left shoulder's lifting, right? This is the body awareness we come to. It's okay to have these little pieces, but the more awareness you have of it, the more that you can start to really fine tune and begin to strengthen your body in a very, not only holistic, but a very 360-degree way. So you're kind of tuning in while you're correcting your posture, while you're strengthening simultaneously, while you're kind of creating this beautiful arena of play and practice. So not making it a stressful, but making it a play and practice. You will go back into past habits. Know that going in, and also know that it's okay, and that you're being curious about how your body is wanting to transform its shape to feel comfortable. And if you're in this space a lot, that's something that we can, again, as we go into more of the emotional, physical, and even the mental and physical elements, you'll start to understand why, sometimes why. Not only is it physical attributes that your body is needing to do, but it can also have another deeper layer to it as well. So just again, noticing, so again, as you hold here, naturally you tend to breathe deeper. Naturally you're expanded through the lungs, through the ribs, and then also as another dynamic, it's really lovely because, again, as our kind of vocal center, but our root center is in a stable place, it also allows our very, very important, important functions like our digestive to function properly. So these are all really important pieces. Another piece, just before we get into some of the stretching, is when you do have your feet nice and flat on the floor, be mindful if you rotate, or if you notice that you kind of allow your body, your legs to rotate inward, or if you let them kind of roll out and rotate outward. Neither of those are bad, but it's just something right now, at least, just to notice if you notice that. And if you're a perpetual person who almost feels like, again, it's a protective piece, but it feels like you have to have your legs crossed all the time, I really encourage you to be mindful of that. Again, we're just going to be working more and more into that as we keep going, and we'll start to connect pieces that'll probably, hopefully, allow you to see how you hold your body and how your body just almost needs to do things, that there's a root cause for that, and we'll find that out. Okay, so again, here, we're going to just slowly transition from sitting. We're going to move our chair here, and we're going to just do some stretches that, again, the whole purpose of this particular video is when we're in a sitting down position, how can we move our bodies throughout the day? This is going to be a video that I send out on a regular basis, not only to remind you of this really important feature, but also how you can move your upper body, how you can move your hips while you're in your working outfit, while you're standing, not necessarily getting down on the floor today. So all standing postures. Okay, the very first one that we're going to be doing, all you need is some kind of wall, and get creative. If you even have anything in your space that you work in, like a chair, I will do this exact same thing with the help of a chair. I can do it on a wall, I can do it on a window, you know, like these are pieces that I want you to really tune into your work environment, to your daily environment, and find out where you can find those 5-10 minutes to do some of these stretches. So first one is called the wall press, and you want to just really allow your body always, anytime that you're stretching, it doesn't take long, but you do want to tune into your body. A lot of the time what I do is I just kind of give some shakes, notice how my head is. If there is some aches and pains coming forward, trying to just, again, just not make that into a negative thing. We want to really start to work with our mental state whenever we come and tune into our physical body. So another one that I do is I just kind of slightly go back and forth in between my toes and my heels. I rock. Sometimes I rock a little bit side to side. You want to have your feet about hip distance apart. And remember, a big part of how I teach is I'm giving you the foundation pieces right now. As we go into the classes, you'll know kind of on a body level the foundation pieces. So learn how to trust that your body will just kind of go into postures easier and easier as you keep on practicing those 5-10 minutes each day. So again, wall press, you start off where your body is arm distance away from the wall. So I'm just going to kind of slowly move myself towards the wall a little bit. So my elbows aren't bent here. This is literally helping me to set up a unique state for my body, because everyone's arms are going to be different. So you start here, fingertips are up towards the ceiling, and again I'll show you the slight difference with the chair, but fingertips are up towards the ceiling, and as much as you can, fingers are nice and wide. Not too much space, and you can actually play with this where your thumbs or your fingers come closer together and they come further apart, which will just change where you feel the stretch in your shoulders and your upper spine. For right now, I'm going to have about 3 or 4 inches in between my thumbs, fingertips up towards the ceiling. I'm going to take a step back with my feet, and as soon as I do so, you'll notice that my body weight goes into my toes and it goes into my hands, pushing into the wall. That's a good sign. So as I take a step back, if you need to, you can bend your knees, or you can keep those legs ever so slightly stretched, depending on how your hamstring flexibility is. Bend the knees if you need to. I'm going to bend them, and I'm just going to slowly inhale, and on the exhale, allow my upper body to kind of begin to explore what it feels like to bring that head in between the arms. Now again, I feel quite tight in my shoulders comparative to another day. Today is definitely a tight day for my body, and it's really important to make sure that I'm being gentle. So if I have a fairly tight day for whatever reason, maybe a lot of stuff is happening in my world, or maybe my body is just tight, not necessarily getting the best sleep the night before, I just want to really breathe into it. And again, right now you might not be able to see, but I am keeping a little bit of a bend in the knees. If you feel like you want a little bit more of a hamstring stretch, you can slowly begin to lift that tailbone, and I'm just going to kind of do some movement with my hips so you can kind of see all the range of motion that I can do with those hips here in this posture. All you need to do is kind of play with where those hamstrings and those shoulders are needing it. Right now I'm keeping my head quite loose and heavy, allowing the weight of that head to do the work for me. And as I slowly begin to release and my shoulders begin to let go, my head just kind of naturally drops. Right now I'm kind of playing, again, my feet are about hip distance apart, and I'm playing with lifting the tailbone, letting my head go forward, bending the knees, and letting the lower back kind of arch back again. So right now I'm playing lifting the tailbone up towards the sky or up towards the ceiling, and tucking that tailbone in and under. Okay, and these are all really important things, especially if you have some of that lower back issue. From here, just rocking a little bit from side to side with the hips, and that opens up my side body. That can work its way up to my armpits. You might even start to feel a little bit of tingles and a little bit of, it can feel like numbing pain because we're working through those tight muscles, and when those muscles are releasing and stretching, they're going to be putting a little bit of pressure on those nerves. And so it's okay if you're feeling that tingly. If it's ever too much to come out of this posture, you just, again, bend the knees and slowly walk forward, and you'll feel like a heaviness or even a heat that can come into those arms, into the whole body even. It's really important just to give those arms a shake and just kind of reevaluate how that felt. Remember And this is important for any of the work that we do. Remember that when there's an emotional reaction or when there's an actual physical reaction, so things like heat, things like tingles down the arm, these kind of, I'm going to call them qualities in the physical body or in the emotional body or even in the mental body are there for a reason. So it's sometimes you don't necessarily have to dive into it every time, but sometimes it is a really lovely skill to develop, to just notice what's happening in your body and seeing again what if it's a continuous thing that happens every time or if it's just something that happens in the moment, and both of them can be just lovely feedback in the moment to give you kind of some ideas of what's going on for you other than just kind of what your mind is telling you is going on. So several different things there. So again, giving the arms a little shake, readjusting, and all I'm doing here again is just tuning into my body. So giving it like, okay, how did that feel? Yeah, oh, little adjustment in the neck, little adjustment in my lower back. That's all positive, all really good things. I might start to work through my hips and just kind of do this a little bit. And again, I'm in a very small space, still in a standing up space. So it's just all things that you can kind of do. If you have people in your work environment that aren't doing this, please get them to start doing it with you. Don't make this into like what are you doing? I'm honestly making it where for the remainder of my life, I'm not in pain or I'm not going to have compressed spine or degenerative issues in my physical body. You start to rephrase it a little bit for people. They're kind of like, that's a really great idea. I'd love to join you. So just reframing what you're doing and hopefully being the beacon, so to speak, of witnessing and getting people to understand that 5-10 minutes really can do a lot. Okay, a lot of talk today. So the next one that we're going to do is we're actually going to reverse the body. And all I'm going to get you to do is kind of, again, you can put your shoulders up against the wall, and we're still using the wall for this one, but we're also going to be able to use a chair for this one as well, and I'll show that in the next segment here. So as you do this one, all I want you to do is think about finding your posture. So if you have a wall, once again, feet about hip distance apart, your bum, your glute muscles, should be able to kind of touch the wall, and everyone's going to have a different degree of how far away from the wall they are because of that, because our bodies are so unique and so beautiful and different. So as those glute muscles touch the wall, just allow your body, and notice how far away that lower back is, if there's quite a curvature there, or if there's the opposite, okay? These are just things to really start to love, appreciate, and very importantly, understand about your unique body. So again, just noticing, try not to change too much, but just kind of shifting into it. If you have a little hair, get it out of the way. Let your head kind of sink back if it feels comfortable. Maybe it's touching the wall, maybe it's not. And then we're just going to slowly bring the arms up. So from here, I do want your elbows, if you can, and again, it's okay if you can't, but if you can, the goal here is to try to get those elbows directly out at shoulder height. Now, my left side is really tight right now, and I can feel it. It's just even to get it up at that height feels really restricted in and around through my pectoral muscle and under my armpit and into my rib cage. So again, that's good feedback for me. I'm just kind of going through my own mind's eye where some of that tension might have come from over even the last couple of days, because even when I did this a couple of days ago, this is new for me. So just kind of giving you in the moment feedback. As I come through this one, you'll notice that I'm just going nice and slow, trying to keep the elbows connected, trying not to let them come back or come up and down, even though they have. As you begin to do this movement, try to time it with your breath. So this is really expanding and elongating the spine. This is also really activating the lungs. So you're going to try to breathe as best as you can into the tummy, deep into that lower lung area. And if you can time it. So inhale as the fingertips kind of come out and away from the wall. Exhale as those fingertips try to come back towards the wall. And it's these movements, just trying to get my timing here. Whew. And that's enough for me today. So these movements are simple and extremely powerful depending on, again, where your body's at. So for myself, I'm working on an area in these particular series that I try to do on a regular basis because of my work that I do. So I have quite a bit of tension tightness, and being able to open and again, a lot of my teachings come from a place of simplicity. We want simplicity. Our human brain does well with simplicity. What's so amazing about that is that our physical and even our emotional and mental, but more so our physical body likes simple. When all of a sudden that kind of headspace tries to almost dissect and tries to make things very heavy, that actually does a physical disservice. So when your mind is saying, oh, I'm so tight, why am I so tight, da, 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 try not to think on the why so much. It's good to be aware of things, but look at it more from curiosity, where it's like, interesting that my left side is so tight today. But I'm not going to necessarily focus on like, oh, like, I should be stretching more. I'm not going to allow my one pattern or my one part of my brain to take this beautiful opportunity that I'm doing and bring it into a negative space, if that makes sense. So when you're doing these stretches, what I want you to start to cultivate and start to bring forward is, as you're doing them, you're starting to try to get into your own unique rhythm. So again, even my breathing as I'm teaching tends to be a little bit on the more shallow side. When I'm doing this on my own, in my own practice, I really try to make sure I'm expanding that breath. I'm really breathing into that abdomen. I'm breathing and expanding and filling my space. So that's, again, just something to do, or something to think about. When we're doing these same postures, but again, let's say that you're just at a desk and all you have is a little cubicle, or all you have is a very small space. Maybe you're at home, and even just to go out of your office space and go somewhere else, there would be distractions, and so you try to really kind of keep yourself to a space to work. A-okay, because I'm just going to get you to do these exact same postures with the help of the chair. So let's say you grab any kind of chair. You can even grab, and again, even if you're making lunch or something, grab any type of desk or any type of surface, really, that tends to be hip level or a little bit higher. If it is a little bit lower, depending on your hamstring stretch or depending on how your hamstrings are feeling, you can try it out and just play with it and see. But with this one in particular, we're going to be grabbing onto the back of the chair. And again, your chair might move or your chair might be stable, so you might need to kind of readjust. But as I grab onto that chair, I kind of take a few more steps back, because again, I want my arms to be straight to go into this wall press. And as you go into this one, you want to really allow your hands to stay quite active on the chair, so that engages the muscles and keeps the elbows from bending and swaying out to the side. Not that that's bad, and as we go into some things, I'll encourage you to do some of those movements. But for right now, we just want to try to keep those arms nice and straight. And again, you'll notice, just kind of show a little bit of a bend in my knees. So my feet are hip distance apart. My tailbone is pushing back towards the wall, and I'm actually really using the wall right now because this is the space that I have. And I'm really allowing that head to drop down and in between the arms. And then once again, those nice, full, deep breaths. Allowing the shoulder blades to relax. Possibly kind of moving the shoulders towards the spine, possibly moving those shoulder blades away from the spine. So finding those little micro movements that we've talked about. And then just breathing into it. You can move the head, you can activate the head, you can drop it back and forth, rotate it. When you're ready to come out of this one, again, you bend the knees, you look forward, and you slowly walk forward and out. And it is important because these are, again, like I said, simple but yet very powerful stretches. So you're going to feel it even when I'm down there for maybe 30 seconds, 45 seconds. Powerful work. The other one, so the one that we did up against the wall, if you have a chair or if you have anything where your hips can just kind of find a little bit of a focal point, something that they can kind of rest against, you can kind of still do this movement, or do, not kind of, you will be able to do this movement, just as long as your feet are, again, nice and stable, toes are nice and relaxed, even if you have your shoes, your boots on. If you have heels on, please take them off, like just for even a couple of minutes, just allow your feet to really feel what it's like to ground on the floor. Hips are, again, just anything where you can have that little bit of, I call it point to body contact. So where there's some type of contact that just reminds your body, oh yeah, we're supposed to be nice and elongated, and this is where my hips are. Sometimes we need that outside piece to help remind our physical body and connect our mind and our body too. So when you're here, again, just be mindful of the hips. The wall is nice. Make sure that your hips are both evenly pushing into whatever platform you've chosen or whatever piece behind you. Arms are out, and try to start off with the elbows bent. Okay, the reason being is that we really want to work through those rotations and those shoulder rotations. So all in this area, chest, all the way into the back and the shoulder blades. They're going to have lots of different movements that's going on, or lots of areas that just don't want to move. And this is just, again, an ability to be able to create some space in this part of your body. Okay, so just again, noticing, looking back and forth. So far, like, not too bad with my elbows staying up. It's okay if they do fall down. It's okay if you get fatigued. This is, again, this is working also the neck. Another really lovely one to do after this one, and again, you can be sitting or standing, is just slowly allowing that neck to stretch itself out. How much we're connected in our spine, all the way up our spine, from our tailbone all the way up to the very base of our skull, and into our jaw and into our throat, the muscles in the front of our throat, and into our chest. It's all truly really connected. So when you're feeling a headache coming on, a spinal twist, or even doing some of this work can really just help to loosen anything where you're working through the tailbone. It really does, I think that's one of my favorite pieces. It really does help everything. The 5-10 minutes that you can do and just focus on throughout a day can be such a game changer when it comes to your physical body doing those little tiny pauses in your day that reconnect it to itself, because then it can start to do the healing, and then it can do its own healing work, meaning automatically, meaning automation. Okay, there's all this talk about how our lives really need these quality pieces in them to help to automate, or to help to make our lives very simple, or very with ease. And to be perfectly honest, our physical body has all those elements in spades. So there's just an overabundant amount of your physical body is always trying to work towards finding your highest benefit, your highest health unit, and it just needs that little bit of not only TLC, but that the undivided attention, even if it is just a couple of minutes a day. So that's for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your patience.